What's going on at Lotus? They're becoming the opposite of what they used to stand for, making heavy electric cars and signing deals with mass market manufacturers. Since scrapping their entire iconic lineup, they since replaced it with one car and now appear to plan on making luxurious silent SUVs. Or at least that's what everyone is saying. So are these accusations false, or has Lotus sold its soul to mass market EVs? Lotus was founded by Colin Chapman and fellow engineer Colin Dare in 1952. The origins can be traced back to 1948 though, when Chapman built a sports car based on the Austin 7. The next few years saw Chapman building various racing cars, but it wouldn't be until 1953 with the Mark VI that he would sell cars. Around 100 were made, and the race car would only weigh 432 kilos and use various Ford, MG and Coventry engines alongside a 3-speed gearbox. This was due to it being a kit car, which meant customers could choose what components to add, although many chose the aforementioned engines. In 1954, Team Lotus split off from the car brand, although Chapman was in control of both. The success of the motorsport team meant they moved into a factory in Cheshunt in 1959, and this was also where they produced Lotus's first road-going car, the Elite. After a run of purely motorsport-focused cars, the British brand turned their hand to sports cars, and the Elite used lightweight methods used on the track. The monocoque chassis and fiberglass body meant it had a curb weight of just over half a ton. Over 1,000 were made, meaning it was the first car to generate good sales for the brand, and it showed they could make cars capable for the road, not just a racetrack. In 1962, the Elan replaced the Elite, and it kept the trend of lightweight fun with a slightly increased weight of 680 kilos. It was also a kit car, but the later Plus 2 model was the first road car from Lotus to be entirely assembled in-house. The Europa was surprisingly lighter than the Elan, but this was mainly due to it being almost as basic as possible, with fixed windows and seats and no door handles. Further versions of these models would come with more luxurious features and slightly higher weights, but they were sticking to Chapman's core principle. The Esprit and Eclat were a bit different to their previous offerings, but they still weighed around a ton. The new Elan weighed less than a ton, but it was the new Elise that really changed the game and made them stand out in the last 25 years or so. Released in 1996, it weighed less than 3/4 of a ton, and despite its small 118 horsepower engine, it could do 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds. Its incredibly lightweight was down to the aluminium chassis that weighed only 68 kilos and the use of carbon fibre. The faster S model was made, and the 340R was based on it, with a weight of only 701 kilos in total, with the track pack bringing it down to 571. In 2000, Lotus introduced the Exige, which was faster than the Elise as it used the engine from the 340R. The hardtop version was like a race car for the road, with a noticeable rear wing, roof scoop and front splitter. Part of the reason why the Elise was so important was the number of other cars based on it. The aforementioned 340R and Exige are a couple of examples, but Vauxhall made their own variant, and the chassis was used by Tesla and Hennessy, as well as Lotus again for the Europa S and 211. It wasn't however used for the Evora, which saw the development of a brand new chassis. Launched in 2008, it weighed more than both of the other models, at nearly 1,400 kilos, but it was still an engaging drive. It had the most variants and even went racing in a GTE class, but it was still a happy medium between performance, which was seen in the Exige, and the slow but more comfortable Elise, and was received very well and was probably closest to the car that replaced the Trio. Yes, the famous Lotus Trio is dead. After selling over 50,000 of them combined in a production run that began in 1996 with the Series 1 Elise, the Hethel brand killed them off last year with a run of special editions to celebrate the change they brought to the brand. This symbolised the death of a company that were the antithesis of what the car industry were becoming. They offered only sports cars made in Britain and were more concerned with the driving experience than the sales volumes. But this was the doing of Geely, the Chinese company that bought a controlling stake in 2017. Also owners of Volvo and Polestar, and with stakes in Aston Martin and Daimler, the brand have quickly made their mark. In 2021, they announced a joint venture with the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi Alliance to develop electric cars alongside Alpine, the performance brand owned by Renault. Later that year, they also announced Lotus would be all-electric by 2028. What was the car that replaced the iconic Trio? The Emira was revealed in 2021 and went on sale in March last year. It weighs just over 1,400 kilos, which is just above what the Evora was. It was clearly designed to be more practical with a more luxurious interior and greater luggage space. Customers have the choice of a 3.5 litre Toyota supercharged V6 as before, with a manual or automatic gearbox, and the 4-cylinder AMG engine using the new C63 and the A45. Whilst it is a clear change from the old Lotus, it has been received quite well, with it still offering an engaging drive, just with more comfort and practicality. Petrol heads are not necessarily outraged by the Emira, but more saddened by the loss of the Elise, Exige and Evora, and what is to come from the brand that was once a beacon of light in the dismal future of the motoring industry. So what is next? The Evija hypercar is expected to be delivered shortly after what seemed to be an eternal wait. The electric hypercar may have over 2,000 horsepower, but due to the weight of the batteries, it tips the scales at just under 1,900 kilos. This is not a traditional Lotus despite the acceptance it has had in the car community. The fascination is more about the car itself and the technology used than the fact it is a very different Lotus. Whilst the Evija has had little impact on the brand as a whole, due to its limited production of only 130 units, the Electra is a car that Lotus needs to succeed. It's just about made it into production, with orders being taken for it and a promising waiting time of up to 6 weeks. The electric SUV has sparked outrage and claims that Chapman will be rolling in his grave, and I have to agree. Whilst it has a performance focus, that is the only real link to Lotus, other than the badge it wears. It is clear that this is based on Geely technology, with the lightest model sitting at just under 2,500 kilos. It completely bucks the Lotus trend, with the battery weighing 650 kilograms. That is more than some previous Lotus cars, and not far off some that they have made in the last 20 years, even with more advanced safety measures. At over 5 meters long, it is the complete opposite of what Lotus stand for. Their next planned model isn't much better. The Emea Saloon is designed to take on cars like the Tesla Model S and Porsche Taycan. Slightly more acceptable to Lotus fans, it will reportedly weigh over 2,500 kilograms and will put out a bonkers 900 horsepower in its most powerful form. Whilst these cars are untraditional enough, both of them are also going to be made at Geely's plant in Wuhan, China, meaning that next year more Lotus models will be made in China than their traditional Heffel base. Whilst the cars themselves are interesting, it feels wrong for Lotus to be making them. This has been highlighted even more by Caterham, who recently revealed the Project V to be their first ever electric car, a replacement potentially for Alpine A110 and the Emira. It shows the brand have gone the right way about electrification, and that when they are left to their own devices by backers rather than being run by a foreign profit-hungry parent company. Lotus will have to take note for the Type 135, an electric sports car that may be on the roads as early as 2025. Likely to be developed alongside Alpine, this may be a beacon of hope, as the A110 is one of the most accomplished sports cars on the road today. So will petrol heads abandon Lotus, and is their soul really dead? Well, I think the car community has been deeply saddened by the declining character Lotus has been on, since they killed off the Elise and began electrifying and complicating every car they make. I'm not sure how they will sell many cars with the brand loyalty, being unlikely to sell a whole new segment of vehicles, namely premium performance electric cars. In answer to the second part of the question, I think the soul of the company will live on through their previous models and their passionate fan base, but unfortunately Lotus will probably be admired for what they used to be, not what they're going to become.